insecurity. And your insecurity is what? The way you look. And there's been some physical problems that have occurred because of the micromanagement.
You think?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I'm not as concerned about that. I want you, if you were in a coma, if we could say, hey, look, you need a timeout. We're going to put your body in a form of healing. We're going to put you in a coma. What do you think would happen to your body if you left it?
Would heal.
Oh, well, duh. You know that. So what's the problem? Is it your body, or is it or is it how you're viewing yourself, which is now creating a view of the body? Because it really is a layer of layers of layers of very simple things. It just doesn't feel simple because there's lots of layers. But if we go right to the core of the problem, you don't know who you are. You really don't. You think that the way you look is who you are. And if how you look is to be used as a way to feel good about yourself, what do you think you're going to do? What? I mean, think about that. How people mutilate their bodies on many different levels, through surgery, through augmentation, through whatever they're doing, to use their body as a way to show people or to show themselves who they are. And it's like, it's just a body. It's not even who you really are. It's just a way for you to communicate. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I'm just tired.
I know, and this is going to drain you. What I'm doing right now is going to really suck the life out of you. I remember that feeling. You think it drains you? Wait till I'm done. It's a lot, and I'm trying, we have to work together for this to work. As far as like, if anything I say is going to make sense, you kind of have to let your guard down. Tell yourself a hard truth and expose it. Be aware of what you're really, really willing to do to let this go. And if you're not ready, that's okay. Okay? Please know that. It does take time to work yourself into being ready. Well, let me take that back, because it doesn't take time at all. It takes humility, and how long it takes for you to be humble enough to go, I can't do this anymore. I'm desperate. If you're there, this is going to be quick.
I think that hit last July, is when someone else had told me about HCG. I'm going, that is my final option, because I was about to just stop eating. Because I just wanted to get it all off. The exercise wasn't working. And now I've realized it's a lot more mental than just the physical.
Yeah, and the HCG protocol will make it worse if you don't have the right...
Well, the HCG has pretty much kicked that exercise addiction, because every time I tried working out and keep doing...
don't be in denial, honey. Just so that you know. It may have lessened your need for it, and you're more confident. Oh, totally. Everything you're saying here says a lot about what you're trying to accomplish.
I even actually did light workouts 3 times this week.
Yeah, your nonverbal communication to me when I said you need to stop exercising said enough. Just so you know. Don't be in denial. Your best is tell yourself the truth. We can say, yes, it's better, but ultimately for you to move forward and for this to stop being so insane, you're going to have to let yourself have the vulnerability. Because in essence, the act of all of this control is so arrogant. That's what it is. It's a form of pride and arrogance. All to cover up something that you feel is too scary to let go. You're afraid of finding out what the truth is, really. What is the truth? What's the risk of you eating to hunger, okay? Of anything you want. What's the risk? And not needing exercise to compensate in any form.
Well, to gain back the weight.
Mm-hmm. Don't you want to know that truth? What's the truth? Seriously. If you cannot live healthy mentally, because that's what you're giving up is mental health. That's what you literally are okay giving up. At some point, don't you just want to know what is the physical truth if I just follow hunger and eat in a way that doesn't feel like a diet, that I feel like I can do this the rest of my life? What's the physical outcome? Don't you want to know the truth?
I've had moments where I've done that, where I've just worked out so much and so micromanaged. I just went, fine, I'm done. And I had gotten down. I didn't weigh myself for months and months and months.
Do you use some other parameter like body clothes, size? A lot of times it just transfers to another way of managing through the body. May not be using the scale, it's managing through how you look in the mirror, how much your waist size is, do your bra, we'll use all sorts of other parameters to make sure we're controlling everything.
Trying to remember. It was a number of years ago, but I let go and...
Sure, you've had moments and glimpses of like freedom from this, but it's not real, because once it's real, once you make a real change, you don't ever reverse back. It doesn't occur.
Yeah.
So you've never fully gone forward with this. It's always just been, I can't live this way, so I'm going to accept whatever I gain, knowing full well that I'll go back into it when I'm ready. It's like me saying I'm going to leave the church, and then when I'm done partying, I'll go back to the church. Really, I don't want to go back to the church ever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So what you got to do is go, really, is that church what you want to do? Really? Is this the type of penance? Is this your burden in life? Is this really how you're defined? Is this how much effort is supposed to go into this? I mean, think about how much more you're supposed to be giving in life rather than sucking and leeching from life. There's a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot more to give and a lot more happiness that you're totally depriving yourself of.
Yeah. I got that.
Mm-hmm. So you need to have some time alone to contemplate the risks of letting go of this control, because there are risks. When you transition off of this phase into the second phase, I highly encourage people to let go of that scale, let go of the parameters of control to find out the truth, to trust the body will heal itself. And by allowing that to happen, there's a lot it's like huge reward for you emotionally, because it's like being friends with something you've hated for so long. It's like accepting the fact that you're married to this body, this one. That there's no way you're going to change this body into what's shown you in pictures that are airbrushed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those fitness bodies, those are so... Sorry.
Yeah, I know that
Could.
Never will be me.
Okay, so what do you keep on going for? Do you even have a picture, or are you just... This is just your burden in life?
I don't have an image.
Okay, so it is just you are just, it will never stop until you are, I wonder, you could go into your deep past. Anybody make fun of you for your weight? When do you remember noticing that your weight was a problem? At what age?
Well, my mom said I used to do a diet when I was 4 years old because her and a foster sister was on it.
Yeah, so what does that have to do with wanting to be accepted and befriended?
Probably.
So feeling left out and wanting to be a part of the group?
Yeah, because I was always really shy as a kid.
So just afraid of what other people would think of you?
Mm-hmm.
So does that have any of those emotions attached to this? Kind of the same feelings of, if I don't have this, then I'm left alone. I'm alone. Who am I? I have nothing. So maybe your whole body image, or just this active image, because you don't necessarily have the perfect picture in your mind. Or maybe it's just your weight. How much do you weigh? Is that it?
No, because as I've gotten down to where I had in my head, okay, 175, that would be a good weight.
Okay, that's a weight thing. Got it. It's just a weight.
Yeah, I got there, I'm going, no, that's really not enough.
Well, no, it's not a weight problem. It's a psychological, it's how you're viewing yourself problem, mm-hmm. and you're just expressing it through, it doesn't have to be, it can be expressed in, I want the perfect hips, I want that stomach, I want this waist size, I want those thighs, I want, does that make sense? You can use all these outside parameters, but it looks like you're using weight. Gravity's pull to the earth. That's your parameter. It's all a matter of how much, and that may have just been because your mom talked about weight, your sister talked about weight. That makes sense? Because it was important to them, so you're taking on it as important as well. can you, it's at some point, could you let that go? Because if you let that go, then who are you now?
I did let the scale go last year.
I'm talking right now, honey.
Yeah.
Like right now. I don't care in the past because it's never really been the true thing anyways. No. So we're talking now. I mean, any parameter physically. If you were to go blind to where you can't see a scale, you don't know what you look like. You don't even know if your pants, if you were blind and could not see or use your eyeballs, what would you do now? You can't see how many calories you burned. You can't see anything. You're not quantifying anything. And why would you burden someone else with that bullshit? Because that's abusive, right? And would you be willing to abuse someone else to do all that work for you? Okay, so now what? If you lost your eyesight, what would change?
My perception of myself.
Everything would change. Because this whole game would be pretty much over. Because you have no way to continue it. Unless you're willing to abuse someone else, and you might, actually. You need to be aware of that. How much do I weigh? Will you measure this for me? What were the and then you got to trust them. So then you're going to end up being paranoid. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's really predictable, isn't it? So, seriously, put that in your mind. You're blind. Can't see anything. What does that immediately change for you?
Would probably put me in panic mode, but...
Because?
I don't have the control.
So what's the panic mode for?
Because I need that control.
For what? You need to get to that. I mean, there's an obvious answer. You just need to admit it to yourself. Why do you need that control over your body?
Because probably there's other aspects of my life that I don't have the control of.
Yeah, and maybe you should just admit
I'm going to go again. Mainly I came back because I forgot this.
Okay. Awesome.
I left that printout from...
Okay. It's okay. She didn't know I was recording.
All right, bye.
Okay, we'll see ya. This part I cannot do for you. I can get through I can break some walls, I can pull these layers off, but at some point you have to go into it and just say, God, ultimately all of this control, all of these things that you do, the obsessive compulsiveness of this behavior, of everything that you're doing, really could go away very quickly if you let go of some specific things and had the willingness to be vulnerable. Because I don't believe this is personality. This is like your capacity to create being very controlled. So it's like taking someone who is incredibly intelligent and incredibly, like the work ethic is amazing. You know what I mean? And that person is doing all of that control and work to obliterate themselves. And at some point, you have to stop and ask why. Why can't you go expansive? Why can't you expand yourself? Because isn't it kind of a waste to take that type of energy and that type of complexity of a person and that work ethic and to literally go into control, into nothingness versus expansiveness? What do you stand to lose? Do you care about how other people perceive you? Are you worried about, losing friendships? Are you worried about, think about that. Losing a job, losing a career, change?
No, because I think I've had all the other aspects of my life be good, but I think my self-image is tied into my self-worth.
Well, duh. For sure. It is. So the question is, can you let it go and just accept it? Thank you. You do, right? Now you get what I'm saying. You have to kind of let go of it all. And you have to say, look, if you stop controlling, there's an equal opposite fear. Your need to control is an equal opposite reflection of how afraid you are. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Let me use myself for an example. I micromanaged to such intensity because I was afraid if I were to give you an assessment of how much I was fighting, it was 600 pounds. 600. That's how much work I was putting into it. No wonder I wanted to shoot myself in the head. What's your equal opposite?
As in what?
You're controlling so hard to defeat this outcome. There's the edges of the polar swing. The control is to ultimately how much you control is a reflection of the worst case vulnerability, not necessarily the realistic vulnerability. Make sense? So all of this insanity is a reflective of what? Let's go in terms of weight. If you don't do anything, now that doesn't mean we're saying you're going to go binge eat every single day, right? If you just eat to the hunger scale and just live that way, which is you're not in control at all. Your body is, right? You're just doing what it says. The outcome you're fearing is worst case scenario.
Getting back up to
Which is what?
60.
Well, why don't you just assume that's what's going to happen? Because ultimately, that is what's going to happen when you fear it. Does that make sense? So can you just say, fuck it. 260 is what I'm doing all this for. So if you can just say, you know what? That is the risk I'm willing to take, to just eat to hunger. That's what you're going to have to do because that's the risk. That's the weakest link. That's the vulnerability. That's what you're fighting against insanely. Right? So what I'm going to suggest you do is let's tack on 40 pounds. Let's go to 300. Who are you now if you're 300 pounds? Wouldn't you rather be 300 pounds and sane and expansive and taking all of this incredible beauty in who you are in that vibration, which is crazy awesome, instead of pushing it in, letting it go outward? Wouldn't you rather be 300 pounds and let yourself live free from the insanity?
Probably have gotten to that point now.
Okay, probably just told me you're not there. But anyhow,
Close.
no, you're nowhere. You need to, when you're like, yes, then you'll be ready. You're getting there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But you need to remember this part of this conversation. When you're willing 100% to accept that risk, this is over. It really is. It's pretty simple. Holding on to whatever you're holding on this side is very difficult.
Yes.
Once you let go, it's the easiest thing ever. It's like someone who's in an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage, living in the same house in just awful abuse, okay, which is what's going on in your body. When, let's say, the woman who is the enabler, okay, your body's the enabler, by the way, because it's not going to kill you. It loves you. It's like a dog. It's not going to go anywhere, okay? So you can abuse it all you want. It's still going to keep you alive. That's its goal. So you've got this house and this couple, and the woman is the enabler. She's being physically and emotionally abused into nothingness. There comes a point where she can't handle it. Before, I can't live without this person. What do? I have children. I'm in this house. Everything is in this home. I don't want to rip my kids from this environment, which is freaking insane anyways. They kind of lost their sanity. But there's so much fear of anything outside of that insanity and abuse, she's not willing to leave until something changes. And at that moment, does she even pack anything?
No.
She just leaves. And guess where she goes? She doesn't care anymore about the house. She doesn't care anymore about the stuff. She doesn't even want the baby pictures of her kids. She might take one or two, but she's going to grab those kids and she's going to go to a shelter. And that shelter's probably something she was too prideful to go to before. All of a sudden, she checks into the shelter and admits and is telling the truth. And is that, if she truly, truly divorces that relationship, how does it feel? Vulnerable. No one's going to take care of her now. She's got 2 kids. She's got 3 kids, whatever it is. And she's now living off of the government, something that she was so prideful and hateful of other people for. You know, willing to do whatever possible. It doesn't even matter anymore, does it?
No.
What am I describing to you?
kind of what I'm doing to myself.
Well, I'm trying to prepare you. That's what it feels like once you make the decision. And then once she's made that decision, what do you think she feels like inside?
100% better.
Like, almost, what do you think she was thinking? Why did I not do this? It was so easy. That decision, once it's made, this is the easiest thing ever. And the funny thing is, there's nothing that person can say or do to manipulate you back in. Ever. They can throw fits, they can manipulate, they can hate, they can sue, they can do anything, and it doesn't matter. You're like, whatever, you can keep the house, I don't even care. I don't even need it. You know what I mean? Those things that were holding you in, sucking you in, don't even matter anymore. What I'm basically saying is, dude, give it up. Give yourself 300-pound body in your head, because that's that the risk? Really? Is that all that bad? Can you let yourself find a new way of living in a body that's 300 pounds and still decide, would rather be 300 pounds than stuck in this insanity? Because that's the risk you take by not controlling. Does that mean that that's what's going to happen? Probably not, because you're not going to be binge eating like a dieter. You understand, people don't get that big without dieting.
Yeah, because I dieted for a while, and then it was like,
You didn't beyond dieting. You're starving your body in many different levels.
yeah,
It's
when I say rarely would I ever have a binge. I would restrict.
Yeah, but when you restrict like that, your body uses very little as a binge. So it is a binge, honey. I don't even care if it's 3 chips. That's a binge.
And that's usually.
Because then how much did you exercise to feel better about it? Hello?
Oh, I did insane.
Can you hear this insanity? You don't even think you have an eating problem when you really do.
I've
Okay.
started to realize
And your
that.
body becomes so sensitive when you're in chronic deprivation,
Yeah.
because it's supposed to. There's nothing wrong with that. And your perception of it is so whacked out. The risk you take by listening to hunger, and seriously, because hunger is controlling you, you're not controlling it, is your worst case scenario. That's what that's what the fear is. You're fearing what you don't want to happen. But what happens when you say, you know what, let's just assume. Just make the assumption and be okay with it. Because otherwise, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to step in and micromanage because you're not willing to feel vulnerable. You'd rather stay controlled and comfortable in the insanity. It's like someone who's been in it goes back to that relationship, basically, because she's not ready. You know what I mean? It's almost like she left just to manipulate that person. It wasn't even a true leaving.
Try and take it all in.
Well, it's very similar. But the funny thing is, it's just you. There's no one else involved. Which makes this kind of easy, because you don't have to deal with another person, or, trying to ruin your life. It's just you and your body. But you have to see your body as a separate entity than your soul. So you really do need to compartmentalize a lot of these things. There's your soul. Here's your body. Here's food. Here's exercise. Do not intertwine them at all. At all. So fitness in the future, when you're ready to do it, should have nothing to do with food. It should have nothing to do with a body image. Nothing. It has everything to do with your lymphatic system, with your muscles, with your bones. And when you think of it that way, is there an outcome you're looking for?
That's what I'm hoping to get to.
Okay, well, you're nowhere close, so you need to kind of let go of exercise for quite some time now and let your body heal, because it is a very abusive thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing, so you don't reintroduce it until you totally don't care anymore about the outcome. You're doing it just to feel healthy. And then what you do is very little, because it doesn't take much to feel good, healthy. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been trying to get there.
The next thing is with your food. You need to be smart and intelligent with what you put in your body, but it shouldn't have anything to do with the way you look. Nothing to do with your looks and how much body fat you have. If you can separate those two, could you even imagine that? Eat when you're hungry. Stop when your hunger's gone. Never a bite more. You feel healthy. You're eating foods that's variety. There's no criticism or judgment of the food. You're just listening to your body and doing what it's dictating. And you also have pleasure with food because you're supposed to. But it has nothing to do with the way you look. Right?
Yeah, I got a little bit into that when I said, okay, I still had the exercise addiction over here.
I was just about to say, you got to...
But when I was doing for that half marathon, I'm going, okay, this is what the fuel it needs.
Yeah, well, and how do you know that? That's a lot of arrogance. You see what I mean?
I've read a lot of books. It's just been information overload.
Yeah, and how much arrogance is in the book? To have the arrogance to tell you how much you need. Really? When you ultimately separate the soul, the image of your identity of the soul from the body, and all of these other things from your human form, do you really think you know how to control this form? Are you God?
No.
Is anybody else God? Because really, what do you think their motive is? And the fact that they can pretend like they're God. What is their motive? It's not about you.
Yep.
I just want to reach in here and just like... You just need to let yourself cry and accept that this identity that you took on is a lie, and you need to tell the vulnerable truth. And so by letting go of all this behavior, it's like telling the truth. It's like saying, you know what? I'm going to live according to my body, and I will accept the outcome. Because ultimately, if you can't live like in a state of well-being, then expect to have this happen again. It'll repeat itself over and over again. It's simple, isn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
It's
why
simple,
don't you
it's very
just
hard.
do it? Well, the hard part is holding on to this whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. What I'm saying isn't difficult 1 cent. It's not difficult at all. The difficulty is you not wanting to let go of this old shit. That's what's hard. Remember the woman who's in the abusive relationship? The hard thing is deciding to stay in that environment and what it's going to take to stay in the environment. The easy thing was getting out, because it's as quick as a decision and leaving. That's it. You need to know there's a difference. It is hard to hold on to lies. It takes a lot of work to be in denial. Because that's what this is. You are in denial of what is the truth. You're not even willing to see the truth. You need to be able to take the risk. If you want to let go of this obsessive compulsive behavior, which is a way of lying, you know, that's what works. You know that lies are a form of obsessive compulsive behavior. You're trying to control something, and what is that a sign of? That it's not even the truth anyways. Does the truth really need to be justified, rationalized, abused, controlled?
No.
So let go of control, let go of the excuses, let go of this old pattern, and find out what's the truth. Can you find out, and are you willing to do it?
I have to.
Well, don't do it for me.
No, I am
Don't do it for anybody else.
spent.
Okay. It's not that hard. It really isn't. Once you say, you know what, fuck it. What do I have to lose? Really, what do you have to lose? Insanity. That's what it comes down to. Are you willing to stay insane for whatever this is? Or are you willing to find out what the truth is so that you can stop being insane? You don't want to have to cover anything up anymore. You don't want to have to control and hide and manipulate. You just want peace, right?
Yeah.
And stability. I want to remain stable and get off the horrible roller coaster ride. Well, you have to get off the roller coaster ride first. And there's a risk involved with that. And it would be the remaining stable at something you don't want. But ultimately, if what you have is this, And this is a stable environment that allows you to not micromanage and not worry and not over-exercise. In fact, wouldn't you rather know what body do you need to have in homeostasis that does not require mutilation? Don't you want to find that out?
Yeah, but it's kind of scary.
It is scary. You have to be okay with it. What's scary is, can you accept it? That's what's scary. Because it's not going to make you or break you as a person. It doesn't change the soul, right? It's like, take your soul, put it in a 300-pound body, put it in a 200-pound body. Is there a difference from the soul in either body? No. So there really is no risk in that part. Because you're going to be exactly the same person if you come back in 2 weeks and you're 20 pounds heavier. It's the same person. Nothing's different. Except you're going to have less anxiety, less fear, less depression, less issues in general. You're going to be thinking about other things and having other forms of creativity. You're going to have to feel like you're liberated. It feels so good. You're going to be like, I would much rather have 20 pounds than be insane.
Yeah.
So that's why I say to start before you transition into the second phase or P3. You just need to just make the assumption and go into it and say, you know what? The risk I'm taking by listening to my body is that I will end up being 200 pounds. And you know what? I need to learn this. And I need to accept what the outcome is, truly. Because I don't know if you've ever given your body a chance. Have you ever given your body a chance? When did you start dieting? So you really don't know the truth.
18, after I had my daughter.
You don't necessarily know the real truth. Now, this isn't, just because I'm saying you shouldn't worry about the outcome of weight does not mean I'm saying go eat your brains out and then feel bad about yourself. I'm going to be fat forever, so, self-loathing, binge. That's not what I'm saying. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people make that assumption because that's their state of mind. But I want to make sure that I say that just because I'm saying that you're going to accept whatever your body ends up being, there's no control, you're going to just let it happen naturally, does not mean that I'm giving you liberty to binge or eat excessively, however much that is. The goal is to eat with your body rhythms no matter what, because we're separating your food intake from the image of the body. We're going to disassociate the two and keep them in a different compartment. Does that make sense? Okay. Because once you take that and compartmentalize it, the risk is that this is going to do what it wants. And you have to trust that if you get out of the way, that your body will do what it needs to do to be healthy. Because it's capable of that without you being involved. Right? There's a lot of trust involved with this. It's like me giving up my accounting to an accountant. I have to trust they know what they're doing. And that they're going to do the best they can. Right? I don't have to micromanage everybody around me. That's kind of what you're going to do. It's like a business. You're going to compartmentalize the whole business, and you're not going to define the business based on some parameter that isn't even a good parameter. Okay? Is this helping you at all?
Yeah. It's just a matter of learning how to trust it. And
Well, there is no way to learn how to trust it, just so you know. There's no forcing trust. It's just you need to just do it. That's a form of control, what you just said. You just have to jump. I'm telling you from experience. But it has to be worth the risk, and that's where if you're not ready to risk finding out what the body's supposed to be at, then you're not going to do it, and that's okay. At some point, if you're insane enough, you'll get more towards the bottom. Most people who hit the bottom, it's like the lady that leaves the house that's been abused. They just leave. It's done. Because you'll die, by your own hand. So when you're there, you'll know it. You're just maybe not quite there yet, and it may just be time in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, whether you're close or far away, it does not matter. It's not, one isn't better than the other. It is a process, and everybody's different, and where you're at in the process is really dependent on what you're willing to do and what you're willing to give up. I'm painting a picture of the bottom. Part of that is so that you don't have to get to the bottom, that you can see what's going to happen anyways and recognize the bottom when you get there. Does that make sense? So I kind of take it to the extreme so that you have an awareness maybe where you're at. That way you have a realistic idea of what you're willing to do and where you're at in the process. But what it really comes down to is you have to be willing to accept the body in order for you to let go of your controls, because that is the risk. Sounds pretty elementary, isn't it?
Yep, but again,
It doesn't feel that
hard
way.
to do.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do if you don't want to accept. I know we're repeating the conversation now. It's hard if you don't want to accept it. And that's okay. Don't criticize yourself. So go through a process of thought. It doesn't take a ton of time just to be aware, where am I at and what am I willing to give up? I did that for myself, you know. I went through this process alone. So it really was my own self-navigation, which may be why I'm so good at working with other people too. Because I didn't memorize it from a book, or I didn't read it and then take an exam on it. I literally went through every finite detail to the most insane level, you know. That's why I can kind of tell where you're at by just the smallest language. You know, nonverbal cue, I can already tell where you're at. You know what I mean? So, there is a way out. That's the good news. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
That's awesome, because there are a lot of people, and I was one, that there was no way out. It was suicide completely. That was the only thing that I had available to me. But for you, you can tell there is a way out. It just is a matter of what you're willing to do. So, the protocol. You haven't been weighing yourself, or you are weighing yourself?
This round, I have to say I've been very proud of myself, only once a week.
Good for you. You know, anytime you can let that go, it's a beginning, it's a step towards the right direction. You
Yeah,
know?
because first round, every day, and I could see where my day would be on how the scale was.
Yeah, very predictable. Very predictable, don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like even just listen, it's just such a predictable thing. If you weigh every day, it's going to affect your emotions. I always encourage, you know, I always kind of paint the picture, if you really want to do this and are willing to take the risk, this is how you do it. You don't weigh at all. You don't even monitor your body. You disassociate the body from what you're doing. You totally keep them separate. You are listening to hunger and adding fats back in. And you're to do it slowly. You don't go right into those fats.
Oh, see, luckily, I'm not afraid of fats.
I know that. It doesn't even mean you're fearful of fat. It's just your gallbladder. You don't have a gallbladder. You know, you have issues. That's an important thing to know. You don't go quickly into fats. You need to give yourself a 3 to 4 day gradual increase in those fats. Okay?
Yeah, that's what I need to figure out, because I've never really done well transitioning from.
Well, obviously, because you're going to go in and micromanage, and that ruins everything. So that's just the way that works for almost everyone. It's not surprising for me. I've seen enough to know that if you go into the third P3 and you micromanage, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
So if I were to suggest a different way to do it, it would be to not micromanage. Okay? In terms of the emotional healing, if you're ready to take that jump, don't weigh it all and don't even monitor your clothes. Don't even care. You're going to notice, but you need to not care. You have to go into it with the assumption you're going to gain it all back. That way you don't jump in and micromanage, because you accepted the risk up front, right?
Yeah.
And you're willing to take the time necessary for you to let your body find a stable place, and you're willing to do it. You know? Does that make sense? So go into it with the assumption you're going to gain it all back. Because ultimately, every time you've done it, you've gained. So it's the same risk. So really, there's no risk at all by doing it differently. Because the way you've been doing it has failed.
Yeah.
So you don't weigh, and you really are focused in on not the body. It is the food intake relative to your body's signal. So it's not the physical outcome of body fat that you're worried about. It is, am I hungry? How much food does it take now that I'm changing my food to different substrates to not be hungry anymore and not a bite more? So you're to go into that zone of plenty, but not too much. So it's just enough to feel really good physically and to know that you're not starving. You are not to exercise. If you exercise, you're going to ruin this whole thing. Exercise hormonally does change things, and I don't want you going into anything other than going for walks, going to stretch, doing some, posture work. That's it. Okay, so you need to give your body a good 3 weeks without you meddling in the business of it. Okay?
Yep, that was going to be my goal, is to try to do minimal, take a walk.
Yeah, it's really, remember, we're going to compartmentalize. Exercise is totally different. You're going to do it just to get fresh air, to get outside, to enjoy the nature. That's it. Nothing more than that. Okay?
And that's my ultimate goal, is to
But
do a
then,
bike ride, because I like to bike.
yeah, and it has nothing to do with how long you've been out there and how much calories are burned and is your heart rate. I mean, that takes away all of those measurements should not be around.
Yeah.
I know. You see all the behavioral things that I just snowballed because of this shit? It's crazy. Anyways, so yeah, the goal is to keep them separate. You don't want to start pulling in a certain activity or behavior to the way you look. You don't want them to be used together. It's almost like you're blind and you want to ignore how you look. Completely try to ignore it as best as possible. Let it go so that you can focus in on this specific thing. And the second phase, or P3, the job in P3 is for you to learn your body's hunger signal with fats involved and with more variety in food. That's it. That's the goal. Can you see why that would work well?
Yeah, for me, my phobia is the carbohydrates.
Yeah, well, you have so much bias in that. You're not even credible to me. Seriously. No credibility at all. When you get there, you have to take away your problem for you to have credibility. Because you manipulate and create problems that don't exist out of your own problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's like, I don't even care. You've been gluten tested, sure, whatever. Don't add that back in. You definitely have an issue with that. But other than that, your fear is based on your bias. So it's like, that's a problem that should just go away if you figure out the front end of this. Because ultimately, you're not afraid to gain anymore. So those Satan foods, they're not really Satan anymore. And you really kind of might need them to feel better, because there might be an issue without them, and you navigate through foods to know, how does my body feel? Like if I cut out starches, I don't feel good at all. I have weird thyroid symptoms. I don't feel good. Does it sound like I'm going to be able to do some stupid paleo diet? There's no way.
No.
It makes me feel like crap. So I don't care how much I look like. I'd rather be fat and feel physically good. You know what I mean? I can't do it. So you need to figure out your body and adjust. That's really what it's about. It's not a diet whatsoever. It's really about navigating your food intake completely separate from how you look. Okay? I'm going to stop recording. This is almost an hour long. This is going to be a doozy. So, do you have any specific questions that you want on this, or can I close it out?
I think I'm good.
It's tiring, isn't it? Thanks for sharing.